Hello and welcome to this August 25th edition of the Rebels247 Round Table. I'm David Johnson, along with Webb Lewis and Brandon Redd. Guys, it's finally arrived. It's kickoff week for the Ole Miss Rebels, opening up against the Vanderbilt Commodores Thursday night, 8:15 Central Time kickoff on national television. Let's hop right into it. Webb, what do you see in this ball game, in this matchup? How do you see things playing out?
We've been talking about it for a while. The magnitude behind this game can almost it can't be described. It's huge for both sides. I think it's bigger for Ole Miss considering where everything is and what everything that's happened leading up to this. But as far as how I see it playing out, David, you and I have talked about this a lot. Vandy and Ole Miss, there's something kind of awkward about their meetings in the past. No matter how good Ole Miss has been, sometimes a lesser Vandy team makes them struggle, and now Vandy, playing really well. But that being said, I really think Ole Miss wins this thing by no less than 3 touchdowns.
I don't buy into the witchcraft voodoo thing of what happened 9 years ago or what has happened over the last 8 years or anything. These are not your 2011 Ole Miss Rebels. This is a different football program with different leadership. And even though last year one got away from Ole Miss against Vandy and Oxford, I don't care who won 3-4 years ago or who's won 3 of the last 5 or whatever those stats say. These are 2 good football teams that are going to be battling Thursday night. I personally think Ole Miss has the better football team, and I think Ole Miss will probably come out on top.
When I evaluate Vanderbilt and Ole Miss and I look at the rosters, I agree with you, David. I see a better Ole Miss team than a Vanderbilt team in the fact that Ole Miss brings back more experience. You have a lot of offensive guys coming back, a lot of defensive guys, and then you mix in a lot of this youth movement of a lot of these freshmen Ole Miss has. And yes, it's a Thursday night. Yes, it's on national TV, and you don't really know what to expect from some of these freshmen when the pressure's on, so to speak. But these guys were number 1, number 2, number 3 type players in the country for a reason. They've been used to the national exposure. And when I look at Ole Miss's roster and I look at what they bring back, I think there's no question that Ole Miss is the better team. Hugh Freeze is a great coach. Vanderbilt and Franklin has a great coach, but I think Ole Miss wins. I think it'll be a little close, personally, with the Thursday night game. I could see it being from anywhere from a 3 to an 8-point win by Ole Miss. I think it's going to be close, but I do think Ole Miss is the better team, and that's the reason they win.
I think one advantage Ole Miss has going into this ball game is that Vanderbilt has something that Ole Miss does not have, that being a controversy. You certainly don't wish that on any football team, but the Commodores are having to deal with the fact that 4 former players have been indicted in relation to a rape charge. A 5th player, and a very important part of their offense, has been suspended from the football team as he has been indicted for his role in an alleged cover-up of this situation. And that has to get into the mental psyche of their teammates. It has to get – look, Chris Boyd was plucked out of the middle of camp and indicted, and he no longer goes out to practice every day as his suspension is being played out. That's something that no football team wants to have to deal with. Unfortunately for Vanderbilt, they have been having to deal with that.
Absolutely, and it is. It's kind of a unique situation, and like you said, you don't want your enemy. You wouldn't wish this on your enemy, to have to deal with these types of things.
Right.
But Vandy is dealing with it, and I'm sure the coaches and administration are doing everything they can possible to make camp and preparations for this game as normal as possible,
sure,
as difficult as that may be.
And David, the word you used kind of was focus. And, when I look at Ole Miss this fall camp, how focused they've been, it's like both you guys said, you too, Webb, and the fact that how focused will Vanderbilt be? When you look at a team that has all this other stuff surrounding them, it's easy, maybe 1 day or 2 days after something happens to try to get over it. But this has been going on now for weeks and weeks, and it's starting to wear on them. And while we know Ole Miss will be focused because they haven't had to deal with stuff like this, you got to wonder, where is Vanderbilt's focus?
Yeah, and I don't think Vanderbilt brings it between the lines Thursday night. I think they're certainly capable of leaving that off the field, but it's the preparation time and how it's been a distraction throughout camp, and you can only imagine that it has been a very dreadful distraction, not only for the players but the coaching staff, the Vanderbilt fan base as well.
Boyd, you say being plucked off the team. Boyd along with Jordan Matthews, in my opinion, that was one of the better receiving tandems in not just the SEC but the country.
A heck of a 1-2 punch.
Absolutely. And now, a lot left on Matthews with this true redshirt freshman quarterback. And now
actually, he'll be a junior. He's a redshirt junior.
Redshirt junior. Well, tell me this: the game's going to come down to matchups. What matchups do you guys see being the keys to this game?
Well, I think, while we're talking about wide receivers here and Jordan Matthews and the fact that Chris Boyd, not only Chris Boyd, but the guy they were planning on playing in the slot was a guy named Tip McKenzie.
Right.
He's gone because of this scandal as well. So you're talking about behind Jordan Matthews, a lot of unproven guys that are going to be out there on that field, and not the kind of unproven guys that are in the Ole Miss receiving corps that were highly touted recruits coming out of high school. Some guys who are kind of anonymous that Vanderbilt's going to have to depend on, because you can bet your bottom dollar Jordan Matthews is going to see a lot of double coverage, a lot of double teams out there, and they're going to make Carter Samuels, the quarterback, find somebody else to throw the football to. So that's one of the matchups that intrigues me there. Vanderbilt's wide receiving corps versus the Ole Miss secondary. But there are a lot of other factors that go into that. How is Vandy's offensive line going to do in pass protection against the Ole Miss defensive front? How are the linebackers at Ole Miss going to cover out in space? A lot of stuff to be determined right there.
One of the things I'm looking forward to the most, I think, is the Ole Miss defensive line versus Vanderbilt's offensive line. How will somebody like Robert Kimdichie do in his first game? How really well is C.J. Johnson? Will he have that burst he's had? We saw at the end of last year. Then somebody like Isaac Groves that, yes, he's been practicing, but where's his motor right now? A healthy Ole Miss defensive line is one of the top 3 or 4 best in the SEC. They're just that good. They have a high motor. They can get to the quarterback, and they would beat Vanderbilt. The question to me now is, with some of these injuries, how good will Ole Miss defensive line be against Vanderbilt's offensive line?
I agree, Red. And, best 3 or 4 in the SEC actually translate usually to best 3 or 4 in the country. David, back to what you said. Ole Miss in a similar situation at the wide receiver stand. You got Moncrief, you said, and then you got some unproven guys with the exception of Logan. But the unproven guys are Laquan Treadwell, top receiver in the country.
And if you're looking at it from a national standpoint or a Vanderbilt standpoint, Laquan Treadwell, you can easily label unproven on him.
Right.
Guys, we've seen him in action at practice this year. We know what he can do to us going into this ballgame Thursday night. Laquan Treadwell's not unproven.
He's the real deal. He is as advertised. I say this, though. Ole Miss and Vandy differ in this. Ole Miss doesn't have – Vandy has one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. How, right. They have that option, and they're going to have to decide, do we cover Moncrief one-on-one and then use everybody else? Do we double-team Moncrief? Ole Miss really doesn't have that with Matthews. Not to take a shot at Charles Sawyer or Quintavious Burdett or Sinquez Golson, but one-on-one with Jordan Matthews isn't going to look good for Ole Miss, I don't think. So if Vandy makes that decision to double coverage Moncrief, you're going to see Laquan Treadwell have a big night in his opening game.
And I also think Jameis Logan,
right.
Quincy Adebojo, a whole host of Rebel receivers can have a big night. And look, the last time we saw Dante Moncrief in single coverage, I remember, was the Egg Bowl when he was streaking past Jonathan Banks,
who was at that time considered to be the best corner in the SEC. Something I've seen in Moncrief, everybody saw how great he did last season, but David, you and I have talked about this before. He kind of has this air about himself out on the practice. Ball's in the air in his direction. You just feel like he's coming down with it regardless of the coverage. It's strange.
He's a much more mature player. Brandon pointed that out in a story he did earlier this year on Rebels247. Moncrief the mentor, how he is there to mentor some of these younger receivers. And, that's what a guy of his abilities, talents, and the fact that he's an upperclassman should be doing.
And speaking of Moncrief, when I was talking to a lot of the NFL scouts around fall camp this year, they love him. They said he could be, a second or third round draft pick. Maybe not this year, maybe as a senior. The guy has all the tools, but like you're talking about, David, but he's a leader too, and that's what you want. He's mentoring people like Laquan Treadwell and somebody like Laquan Treadwell that might line up in the slot besides Dante Moncrief. Can you really double team Moncrief in that situation? No, because then you put a linebacker on Laquan Treadwell, and that is dangerous. He brings so much attention to himself that he opens up so many other people. Jamez Logan is one of them, David, that we were talking about, that I feel has set himself up to have a breakout season because he has slowly and silently been very, very good this fall.
Well, and it gets back to Moncrief's maturity level. Dante has said, numerous times that, hey, I don't have to catch the ball every play. If I'm drawing double coverage and Jamez gets a catch, I count that.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be right there.
Also worth noting, Moncrief's about 15 pounds heavier than he was last season, and is carrying it the same way he did last year.
He's running just as well.
Yeah.
He hasn't lost a step. He's actually faster. His hands are better. The guy has only gotten better from last season, and that's really hard to believe compared to how good he really was.
I want to talk about these unsung guys, these hogs down in the trenches on Ole Miss's offensive line too, guys. I think Matt Luke's got this group to a point where they're going to be one of the best offensive line units in the SEC. And that brings me to my next point. How will Bo Wallace perform Thursday night? First time we're going to see Bo that he's going to be out there getting knocked around post-shoulder surgery. I think the Ole Miss offensive line is going to provide him with plenty of protection.
I was a little worried about Bo Wallace first week or two of camp.
Yeah.
But the whole week and a half since then, he has been completely, or as I like to say it, on money, because he is hitting the wide receivers. He knows the offense better. He is directing traffic, and he is making audibles at the line of scrimmage. And you're right, David. It all starts back with the big guys up front. If they can protect him, which I do believe they will, they're athletic enough, they're strong enough, they're fast enough. I expect Bo Wallace to have a really good game because of how much maturity he's shown even in the last 2 weeks.
Well, tell me this. Do you guys think that you'll see the same type of running the football out of Bo Wallace this season as you saw last year?
I think that's part of Hugh Freeze's offense, okay? And I don't think Hugh Freeze is a guy that's going to go out there and limit his offense and what it's capable of doing. And as we saw last year, flashback to the LSU game, Bo Wallace with the football in his hands running can be very, very effective.
Absolutely. And my question is, you guys have covered Bo. We've all talked to Bo in detail. You saw him play. You know he played through that injury. He has a degree of toughness that is not found a lot at that position. He's probably going to be told to slide. But I just don't know with ball in hand, under the lights, if he's going to do it a whole lot. You saw him tuck that shoulder a lot last year.
Yeah, he's a competitor. He's a risk taker, as we've seen with some of his interceptions. But he'll lower that shoulder, and with the zone read that Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze loves to run, Bo will have to keep the football, or it completely takes away from your offense.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it's an integral part of that offense to have that option. It's what defenses have to defend. They have to respect the fact that Bo could tuck it and go on every single play, and you don't limit Bo. I mean, and the shoulder surgery, I've heard Coach Freeze say, hey, this not only is supposed to repair it, but actually to even make it stronger. Right. So you can't go out there scared about somebody getting hurt, particularly Bo Wallace, particularly in this offense.
Because then you're just kind of backpedaling your way into your offense. Bo rushed for 320 yards last year, but if you go back and you look at each one, they were usually big yards. He was so effective in running that read option and knowing when to pull it, knowing when to keep it, and all those types of things. I think you're only going to see that better with an improved offensive line and a very improved running game, I think, in this season.
Yeah, it really keeps the defensive ends at home when Bo Wallace can hold on to the football or he's handing the football off. It doesn't matter, but you don't want to become one-dimensional, as you're saying, David. If you become one-dimensional, it takes away from the run, then it takes away from the pass. Expect Bo Wallace to run the football. And with his personality and his attitude, expect him to go head first and not be scared to take the contact.
All right, guys, before we segue on to our next topic on this edition of the Rebels247 Round Table, I got to ask a very important question, get your opinions on the Vanderbilt game. It's on everybody's mind. What uniforms do the Rebels wear Thursday night?
I'm going with the white with navy blue numbers and gray pants.
You took the answer from me. Well, see, during dress rehearsal, they had one of the uniforms they wore were the white with the navy blue and the grayish color pants. So that was going to be my answer too. You took my answer well.
Actually, in dress rehearsals, they wore the navy blue pants with the white
That's
jerseys.
right. That's right. They did.
Yeah.
But considering it is blackout night at Vanderbilt,
Yeah.
and the Commodores are likely to play in
All
solid
black.
black uniforms, I'm going with you guys. White jerseys, navy numerals, navy piping, gray pants.
Now, white pants are in the rep. They're in
They
the,
are.
yeah,
Yes,
it
they
could be.
are.
Huh. I still go with the
And you
the
could
white.
see the red numerals as well on
Yeah,
the white jersey. It's possible.
I'm going to go with navy blue.
Me
I've
too.
seen some of their printouts in the media they've been putting out this fall, and they're really pushing the white jerseys with navy blue numbers.
And I like that because I love those jerseys.
Yeah.
Personally.
Okay. The Mississippi high school football season opened up in earnest Friday night with games all across the state of Mississippi. And the three of us, well, we were all at individual games, and we're going to talk a little bit about those. Before we get into that, though, certainly a terrible tragedy that occurred up in Sardis, Mississippi at North Panola High School. A 15-year-old student shot and killed following the conclusion of the North Panola Tunica Rosafort game on Friday night. And certainly our thoughts, our prayers are with the North Panola School District, everyone affected by this, particularly the family of the young man of the deceased.
You know, it's got to be tough and scary for everyone that was involved in that accident or that incident rather. And I agree. Prayers go out, thoughts and prayers, and in a very tough situation.
Absolutely, it's not something that's going to be easily forgotten, easily moved on from. We can only hope that the things are done that need to be done to maybe assure people that things like this won't continue to happen.
It cannot happen.
Cannot happen.
You cannot turn the high school football stadiums of Mississippi into the streets, and I don't know what the answer is. There's no precaution you can take to keep somebody from being an idiot.
Right.
Yeah. It's just one of those tough situations, and I guess for me, it just makes me wonder, the people that are there, or the parents that had kids there on the field, or even the parents in the stands, they're.
You imagine how horrifying that
Exactly.
is.
There's so many negative situations with that, and to have been there, to have those emotions and those feelings that probably some parents and some of these kids are feeling right now, it's really tough. It's really tough.
All right, Webb. Down in South Mississippi Friday night, you went down to see Purvis 4-star wide receiver Markel Pack. What'd you think?
Markel Pack, he is a finesse wide receiver. He beats you with his quickness, his route running. Not very physical. Ball gets close to him, he will catch it, but he's a good wide receiver. I think he earns his 4-star rating. I can see why, in the slot position in the spread offense, I can see why Ole Miss is targeting him so aggressively. It was good to get out there and see them. Purvis beat North Forest 27-18. They had a lot of trouble getting Pack the ball at wide receiver, so they just lined him up in the shotgun. He took the snap and would just run around the end, took 170 yards there at the end for a touchdown.
Markel Pack remains committed to Florida State right now, but Ole Miss still knocking on his door. Brandon, up in Olive Branch, Mississippi on Friday night, you watched the Conquistadors take on Ridgeway High School out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah. First, I went to see Alfred Dickens, the Ole Miss commitment for next year, and I'll be honest, I'm still trying to figure out if he's a safety or if he's a linebacker. To be honest, I'm not sure yet. He has the speed to do both. Maybe a little undersized for a linebacker, but don't tell Denzel Condici that.
You're right.
The thing that impressed me the most about Alfred Dickens was his leadership on the field, because I've talked to this guy many, many times, and he's always kind of quiet, doesn't say a whole lot. Yes, sir, no, sir, really polite guy, but when the lights came on, his personality changed completely. He was a leader on that defense. He's the quarterback, so to speak, of that defense, and when a safety went down for Olive Branch, they moved him back to safety. He was back and forth between linebacker and safety, and he knew every position on that defense. And that really impressed me for a guy in high school to take such leadership roles and such control of a defense. And I think he'll be a good player. Whether he plays safety, husky, or linebacker, I couldn't tell you. And then I went and watched Fred Walls, too, the junior linebacker that has an Ole Miss offer, and he's a big old boy. He is a complete run stopper. He's got to work on the pass a little bit, pass coverage, because his hip movements are still trying to develop. But the guy could stop the run and clog up the holes.
How about that concession stand? You hit the hot dogs up there?
I did not hit the hot dog concession stand.
No food critique this week.
I had deep fried hot dogs at North
Deep
Forest.
fried.
Sounds like he
North
won
Forest.
he won the food.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was over in Tupelo, Mississippi to watch the Lafayette Commodores take on the Tupelo Golden Wave, Trent Hammond's debut game as the Tupelo head coach. And I left very impressed with what Hammond is doing with that Tupelo program. Over 120 kids dressed out. They've got talent. They've got depth. And they're playing extremely hard. They defeated Lafayette 36-21. Over there watching DK Buford, the 2014 Ole Miss commit from Lafayette. DK lined up in the slot. DK lined up at running back. DK took a couple of snaps at quarterback. DK returned punts. About the only thing DK didn't do was deep fry the hot dogs over there on Friday night. Not particularly a great outing for him. He finished with about 48 yards in total offense, all rushing yardage. Had a couple of mishaps in the punt return game, but things that'll get worked out. The one thing I did notice about DK Buford is he's put on 10 to 15 pounds over the offseason of muscle weight, and he's running the football with much more power this year without any kind of loss of speed than what I've seen him do in the past. So that's what happened over in Tupelo, Mississippi. Now, this week, we've all got some games that we're going to. Well, you start us off. Where will you be Friday night?
I'll be at the Battle for the Little Brown Jug in Laurel, Mississippi. That's what that's called. Laurel plays Hattiesburg High School. I'm going to be checking in on a pair of sophomores at Laurel High School. Quarterback Keon Howard, who has a Mississippi State offer. Wide receiver Octavius Cooley, who has the State and Ole Miss offer, and Southern. These guys beat Quitman High School. Laurel High School beat Quitman this past Friday night. Howard threw for over 240 yards. Cooley had 190 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Very special pair, these two. I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, I'm going to the Greenwood and the Greenwood game. You know, I expect a really hard fought battle. You know, Sammy Epps is a great player that knows how to get to the football and plays great.
Bulldogs will be playing Grenada, hosting Grenada High School. So a lot of prospects in that ball
Couple
game.
linebackers and
Sharif White is over there with Grenada, Jannard Avery with Grenada, and then you mentioned Sammy Epps, Ole Miss commit, tight end commit for Greenwood High School. They also feature Corey Robertson, who is committed to Southern Miss at the wide receiver spot. A couple of other Division I prospects over there. Defensive back Artez Williams, linebacker Broderick Hodos drawing some looks for the Greenwood Bulldogs, and their quarterback Quadre Griggs, another D1 prospect. So you got a great game to watch.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to see some really good players.
And I'm kind of henpecked where I go on Friday nights. Got to be honest. I've got to go watch my son play, so I'll be watching Lafayette once again. They're up in northeast Mississippi playing Corinth, and the Commodores will try to get it back on the right track, and hopefully – I didn't interview DK Buford after this past Friday night's game. It was a tough loss for the Commodores, and I wanted to give him that respect. So hopefully Lafayette will end on a winning note this Friday, and we'll come back with some thoughts on DK Buford.
A lot of good high school football this past Friday night. Looking forward to these traveling around. We've got some great games. We're going to see some great players. And it's a lot of fun to get down there and get on the sideline at these games and just kind of experience the atmosphere at different places. I know at North Forest Friday night it was very unique. The school kind of sits in the middle of nowhere really, but it was high school football at its best, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of these stadiums and stuff.
One of those kind of schools.
It's one of those in Mississippi, a school that sits in the middle of nowhere. Imagine, I know.
Now, I learned my lesson last year. I was on the way to Noxubee County. I drove through Starkville. Wasn't going to stop there.
Right.
Drove straight through Columbus. Didn't stop there. All the time telling myself, well, I'll get down here and I'll eat dinner in Macon. In Macon, Mississippi.
I lived in Macon.
Don't make that mistake.
No. Not many options.
Not many options. Macon is a lovely community, so
It
don't message me about Macon.
Yeah.
Very lovely community. Just not a lot of food choices.
No. And I'm sure there's some hole in the wall places there in Macon that
just don't pop up on the
internet. Know about.
Yeah.
They don't pop up on the iPhone, but it's fun, and food is part of the perks to going to these games.
It's got to be.
It's
I know. I always first thing I do when I find out where I'm going is look for food places.
really.
Yeah, that is the first thing I do.
Same here. Shout out to Shipley Donuts right off the Tupelo High School campus. Went in there, pregame meal, couple apple fritters and some icing on some donuts in there. Got me ready for Friday night's ball game.
Nothing like a good old donut to
Oh
get you
man,
going.
I'm so glad it's finally here. People can stop talking, they can stop yan back and forth, and we can play some football. Finally here.
All right, for Brandon Red, Webb Lewis, I'm David Johnson. This has been the Rebels 247 Round Table. We'll see you in Nashville.